Hello and welcome. We are back with more notable names in Arab American history. Today, we we do a name that many people probably will recognize, or at least the voice. Casey Kasem. Um, a lot of people know him for the American Top 40 with Casey Kasem. Now, let's go to a letter from a fan. He'd always read out the letter and he says, well, back to the music. He helped create the show, was host of it for a long time, and that put him in the actual national something of broadcasters. So I guess National Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Yeah, Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 1985. Yeah. So just on that alone, he's got some fame, but he also had other roles. Most notably, he was a voice actor who voiced the voice of the original, I think, Shaggy. Yeah. Uh, do, 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 do. Because the only options it gives us is learn about them in these articles. Scooby Doo, Seacrest, which Seacrest took over for Kasem after he left the American Top 40 radio show. But anyway, Scooby Doo. Um, I think, yeah, Casey Kasem was, yeah, Shaggy, voiced by for most of the series by disc jockey Casey Kasem. So he's the one to thank for the famous "Wow, man, Scoob." He's the one who created that identity for the voice. But he did other roles. But that's probably his most famous voice acting role. But yeah, Casey Kasem. He was born Kamal Amin Kasem, April 27th, 1932, in Detroit, Michigan. He died June the 15th, 2014, in Gig Harbor, Washington. I don't know if he graduated or not, but he at least attended Wayne State University. But yeah. Disc jockey, actor, radio presenter, activist. Was married to Linda Myers in 1972 and divorced in 79. And then married to a Gene Thompson in 1980, which I'm assuming he stayed married with until his passing in 2014. 4 children, so yeah. Let's see. Yeah, voiced Shaggy Rogers in the Scooby-Doo franchise for the most part, and was the voice of Dick Grayson and Robin in the Super Friends, 1973 to 85. Bum 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 bum. It's the Super Friends, Superman, Batman. Yeah, if you're familiar with that. Yeah, started hosting, helped create and hosting the American Top 40 in 1970. Was there until 88. Hosted the Casey's Top 40 from 89 to 98. Then revived the American Top 40 in 98 and hosted 2 countdowns of the adult contemporary format as well from 92 to 2009. So yeah. Performed many voices on shows such as Sesame Street and the Transformers cartoon series, and was the voice of NBC, and helped with the annual Jerry Lewis Muscular Dystrophy Association Labor Day telethon. So he did quite a bit. Again, while you may not automatically think of him, he's the voice you will recognize for a lot of things, especially during the 80s when I was a kid. Even when I was older, because I still listen to radio in the late 90s as well. I remember in the American Top 40. Well, today we've got a great show, but first, a letter from a listener. I mean, these are the things you would remember about Casey Kasem, but yeah. Kamal Amin Kasem, born to Lebanese Druze immigrants Helen and Amin Kasem, who were grocers. He was named after Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, whom his father respected. Kasem's parents did not allow their children to speak Arabic and insisted they assimilate to the American life. In the 40s, the radio show Make Believe Ballroom reportedly inspired Kasem to pursue a career as a radio disc jockey. Remember, radio was the big form of entertainment at that time. Television was around the corner, but hadn't yet become a part of everyday life. Received the first experience in radio covering sports at Northwestern High School in Detroit, and then attended Wayne State University, where he voiced children on radio programs such as The Lone Ranger and The Challenge of the Yukon. 1952, he was drafted into the Army and sent to Korea, where he worked as a disc jockey and announcer on the American Forces Korea Network. After the war, remember, it's not a war technically, it's a military engagement, as our country would like to say, because we technically wasn't at war. No, we were at war. We were at fucking war. We just don't like to call it it. It is what it is. Kasem began his professional broadcasting career in Flint, Michigan, then worked at Detroit's WJLB and WJBK, and portrayed children's television host Krogo the Clown, but left broadcasting to help tend to the family grocery store in Fenton, Michigan. He worked unsuccessfully as a stage actor in New York City for 6 months, auditioning for a role in the off-Broadway production Ivanov, but lost out to Ed Asner, who himself is a big actor. He's since passed away, but yeah, he's been in a number of huge roles. He returned to Detroit. Kasem reapplied at WJBK, but was promptly referred to co-own WJW which not only had a late evening slot open, but a hosting role for Cleveland Bandstand over WJW TV as well. Cleveland's emerging status as a popular music epicenter appealed to Kasem, who had been aware of WERE's Bill Randall dating back to when Randall worked in Detroit. Kasem identified himself as Casey at the mic, owing to varied misspellings of his name in both contemporary news accounts and station promos. Kasem's tenure in Cleveland was brief but successful, and entered the market with a vengeance against top 40 stations WHK and KWY. In 3 months, he reached second place behind WHK in rating surveys on weeknights and number 1 on Saturday nights. So he's already making progress. First starting out on radio, doing great. Kasem's predecessor in the time slot, Pete Mad Daddy Myers, partially inspired Kasem's presentation on air, but Kasem felt compelled to develop a unique on-air persona to distinguish himself. The first 3 hours of his evening show remained devoted to R&B recordings of a high-energy rock style, while the 4th hour was more laid back with his news reader as a co-host. The R&B selections and wild tracking by Kasem also distinguished himself from WJW's daytime pop-oriented fare, which typically featured Perry Como and the McGuire sisters as core artists. Think mainstream rock or pop artist as common as can be. Big names. Yeah. Nightly features included Kasem labeling songs as of the night with random phrases or names as a descriptor. The payola scandal, which developed Alan Freed's career, emerged after Kasem joined WJW in response, and Kasem began a regular comedy bit called the Payola Tune of the Night, which WJW management encouraged under the assumption it would dissuade listeners from thinking he was under investigation as well. Which I think the Payola scandal was just like, yeah, certain songs and artists you're paid to help build and really broadcast. Illegal practice of paying a commercial radio station to play a song without the station disclosing the payment. Yeah. And there was such an accusation, Casey Kasem began saying, "This is the Payola Tune of the Night." So yeah. One notable stunt involved Kasem and Diana Trask engaging in an 85-second long kiss for a world record distinction in 1959, and his news reader describing the kiss on air. While hosting Cleveland Bandstand, Kasem started to take pep pills to lose weight. One day he forgot them while en route to the station, with the resulting pang of conscience after retrieving them from his apartment, prompting him to give up the habit entirely. Let's see. WJW changed its format to Beautiful Music, which had him leave the station and head to Buffalo for WBNY, but remained in contact with friends in the Cleveland area. At KYA San Francisco, the general manager suggested he tone down his delivery and talk about records instead. At KEWB Oakland, California, Kasem was both the music director and an on-air personality. He said it was him who inspired Who's Who in Pop Music 1962 magazine he found in the trash. So yeah. He's already making a bit of a name. He's being at a number of different radio stations. He would join KRLA in Los Angeles in 1963. He really started to blow up as a disc jockey, championing R&B in East LA. He acted in a number of low-budget movies and radio dramas, while hosting dance hops on local television, and attracted the attention of Dick Clark. Dick Clark himself, if you know of who he is, every New Year it's named after him, the Dick Clark Rocky New Year's Eve. You know, he hosted the New Year's ball drop so often that there's literally one of the shows named after him. So yeah. Clark would hire him as co-host of daily teenage music show called Shebang, which started in 1964. Kasem would also have roles on network TV series including Hawaii Five-0 and Ironside. In 1967, he appeared in The Dating Game and played the role of Mouth in the motorcycle gang film The Glory Stompers. In 1969, he played the role of Knife in the film Wild Wills and had a small role in another biker movie, The Cycle Savages, starring Bruce Dern and Melody Patterson, and Incredible Two-Headed Transplant, also with Bruce Dern. So he's showing up in television, movies, but he's still really known for his role on the radio. Yeah. Kasem had a minor hit single called Letter from Elena in 1964, a spoken word recording that he told the story of a girl who met George Harrison after a San Francisco Beatles concert. In the end of the 1960s, he began working as a voice actor. In 1969, he started one of the most famous roles he would ever have, Shaggy, in Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, the original Scooby-Doo, and also voiced the drummer Groove from the Chattanooga Cats that year. 1970 to 88, he would help launch the weekly radio program, The American Top 40. At the time, Top 40 radio was on the decline as DJs preferred to play album-oriented progressive rock, loosely based on the TV program Your Hit Parade, and the show counted down from number 40 to number 1 based on the Billboard Hot 100 weekly chart. He would also mix in biographical information and trivia about the artist, as well as flashbacks and long-distance dedication segments. I remember those very well, in which he read letters from listeners wishing to dedicate songs to distant loved ones. Frequently, he mentioned a trivia fact about an unnamed singer before a commercial break, then would give the name after returning back from the break. He ended the program with his signature sign off: "Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. I'm Casey Kasem." Yeah, very much remember that. The show debuted on 7 stations but soon went nationwide. Um, the show expanded from 3 hours to 4 in 78. Its success created several imitators, including a weekly half-hour music video television show, America's Top 10, hosted by Kasem himself. When we first went on the air, I thought we'd be around for at least 20 years. He later remarked, "I knew the formula worked. I knew people tuned in to find out what the number one record was. Because of the great knowledge of music, Kasem became known for his commentaries on music history and he interspersed with trivia about artists." 71, he provided the character voice of Peter Cottontail in the Rankin Bass production of Here Comes Peter Cottontail. Voiced Robin of the Super Friends. 1980, he voiced Mary in the animated Return of the King. Oh, I remember those. I don't think they had a live action in 80. I think it was the animated ones. Also voiced Alexander Cabot III on Josie and the Pussycats. And Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, and supplied a number of voices for Sesame Street. So again, someone who you likely heard, you just don't always know it, you don't always remember it. But yeah. For me, I remember Casey Kasem quite a bit. Not meaning to call him a bitch. Anyway, yeah. Kasem made a cameo in Ghostbusters in 1984, reprising his role as host of the American Top 40. He returned from 1988 to 1998, he had his own shows because he left due to contract dispute with ABC Radio. Yeah, and Rick Dees and the Weekly Top 40. Yeah, I remember that. Being on radio at the same time, yeah, I remember that very much. Again, this is when I was a kid. I remember these things. Let's see. Oh, Mark in Battle of the Planets, and several Transformers characters: Blue Streak, Cliff Jumper, Teletran 1, and Dr. Artville. So he actually was pretty good on Transformers. Awesome. He left Transformers during the 3rd season because he believed the show contained offensive caricatures of Arabs in Arab countries. He explained in a 1990 article, "A few years ago, I was doing one of the voices of the TV cartoon series Transformers. One week, the script featured an evil character named Abdul, King of Carbomia. Didn't make that subtle at all. He was like all the other cartoon Arabs. I asked the director, are there any good Arabs in this script for balance? We looked. There was one other, But he was no different than Abdul. So I told the show's director that, in good conscience, I couldn't be part of the show. Yeah. '89 to '98, he hosted Nick at Night's New Year's Eve countdown. Made appearances on Saved by the Bell and Alf in the 1990s. In '97, after voicing Shaggy Rogers on an episode of Johnny Bravo, he quit the role in a dispute over a Burger King commercial with Billy West and Scott Innes, taking over the character in the late 90s and early 2000s. The original American Top 40, hosted by Shadoe Stevens after Kasem's departure, was canceled in '95. Kasem regained the rights to the name in '97, and the show was back on the air in '98 on the AM/FM network, later acquired by Premier Radio. At the end of 2003, he announced he would leave the American Top 40 once his contract expired and be replaced by Ryan Seacrest. In 2008, Kasem did the voiceover for WGN America's Out of Sight Retro Night. He returned to the role of Shaggy in 2002, agreeing to continue on the condition that the character turned to vegetarianism based on his personal lifestyle. In 2009, he retired from voice acting, period, with his final performance being the voice of Shaggy in Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword. He did not voice Shaggy again for the original BBC Children in Need medley, but went uncredited by his request. Or he did voice it again for the official BBC Children in Need medley, but went uncredited, requesting not to be mentioned as the voice. Although officially retired from acting, he provided the voice of Colton Rogers, Shaggy's father, in a recurring basis for the 2010 to 2013 series Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, once again uncredited at his request. Talking about his distinctive voice, Kasem would say, "It's a natural quality of huskiness in the mid-range of my voice that I call garbage." It is not a clear-toned announcer's voice. It's more like the voice of the guy next door. He was a vegan, supported animal rights and environmental causes, and was a critic of factory farming. He was active in politics, supporting Lebanese American and Arab American causes, with an interest triggered by the 1982 Israeli invasion of Lebanon. He wrote a brochure, Arab Americans Making a Difference, published by the Arab American Institute. He called for more fair depictions of heroes and villains on behalf of all cultures in Disney's 1994 sequel to Aladdin called The Return of Jafar. In 1996, he was honored as Man of the Year by the American Druze Society. Kasem campaigned against the Gulf War, advocating non-military means of pressuring Saddam Hussein into withdrawing from Kuwait and was an advocate of Palestinian independence and arranged conflict resolution workshops for Arab Americans and Jewish Americans. A political liberal, Kasem narrated a campaign ad for George McGovern's 1972 presidential campaign, hosted fundraisers for Jesse Jackson's presidential campaigns in 84 and 88, supported Ralph Nader for U.S. President in 2000, and supported progressive Democrat Dennis Kucinich in 2004 and 2008 presidential campaigns. Kasem supported a number of other progressive causes, including affordable housing and the rights of the homeless. Kasem was married to Linda Myers, 72 to 79, having 3 children, Mike, Julie, and Carrie Kasem. He was also he would then marry actress Jean Thompson in 1980 until his death. They would have 1 child together, Liberty Jean Kasem. Kasem in 1989 purchased a home built in 1954 and located at 138 North Mapleton Drive in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles, previously owned by developer Abraham M. Lurie, as a birthday present for his wife Jean. In 2013, Kasem and his wife put the home on the market for $43 million. After the dueling lawsuits between Kasem's family members were settled, the property was relisted in 2021 for $37.9 million. October of 2013, Carrie Kasem announced her father had Parkinson's, which had been diagnosed in 2007. A few months later, she said he had Lewy body dementia, which is hard to differentiate from Parkinson's. It left him unable to speak during his final months. His health worsened in 2013, and Jean, his wife, prevented any contact with him, particularly from his children from his first marriage. They're still his children. Come on. October the 1st, 2013, the children protested in front of the Kasem home. Some of Kasem's friends and colleagues and his brother Mauner joined the protest. The older Kasem children sought conservatorship over their father's care. The court denied their petition in November. Jean removed Kasem from his Santa Monica, California nursing home on May the 7th, 2014, and on May the 12th, 2014, Carrie Kasem was granted temporary conservatorship over her father despite her stepmother's objection. The court ordered an investigation into Casey Kasem's whereabouts after his wife's attorney told the court that Casey was no longer in the U.S. He was found soon afterward in Washington State. So they'd moved him north from California into the state of Washington. June 6, 2014, he was reported to be in critical but stable condition in a hospital in Washington State, receiving antibiotics for bed sores and treatment for high blood pressure. It was revealed he had been bedridden for some time. A judge ordered separate visitation times for Kasem's wife and his children from his first marriage. Judge Daniel S. Murphy ruled the Kasem had to be hydrated, fed, and medicated. As a court-appointed lawyer reported on his health status, Jean Kasem claimed he had been giving no food, water, or medication the previous weekend. Carrie Kasem's lawyer stated that she had him removed from artificial food and water on the orders of the doctor and in accordance with the directive her father signed in 2007, saying he would not want to be kept alive if it would result in a mere biological existence devoid of cognitive function with no reasonable hope of normal functioning. Murphy reversed the order. June 15, 2014, Kasem would pass away at St. Anthony's Hospital in Gig Harbor, Washington at 82 years of age. Immediate cause of death was reported as sepsis, caused by an ulcerated bed sore. His body was handed over to Gene Kasem. Reportedly, Kasem wanted to be buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. But by July 19, 2014, judge had granted Carrie Kasem a temporary restraining order to prevent Gene Kasem from cremating the body in order to allow an autopsy to be performed. However, when Carrie Kasem was given a copy of the order to the funeral home, she was informed that the body had been removed at the direction of Gene Kasem. Kasem's wife had the body moved to a funeral home in Montreal, Canada on July the 14th, 2014. On August the 14th, it was reported in the Norwegian newspaper Verdens Gang that Kasem was going to be buried in Oslo, Norway? No, Sweden? I think Oslo's in Sweden. Norway, Sweden, Finland. Yeah, I believe it. Oslo is Swedish. I could always look at the thing here. Norway. Okay, so it was Norway. I shouldn't have been over guessing myself. Gene Kasem had him interred in Oslo's Western Civil Cemetery in December the 16th, 2014, more than 6 months after his death. November 2015, 3 of Kasem's children and his brother sued Gene for wrongful death. It charged her with elder abuse and inflicting emotional distress on the children by restricting access before his death. 2018 police investigation initiated by the private investigator working for Gene found that he had received appropriate medical care while in Washington and that there was no evidence pointing to homicide. The suits were settled in 2019. He has a Hollywood Walk of Fame star granted to him in 81. As we've seen from the webpage here, National Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame, 1985 Radio Division. Also, National Radio Hall of Fame in 1992. 5 years later, received the Radio Hall of Fame's first Lifetime Achievement Award. And in 2003, was given the Radio Icon Award at the Radio Music Awards. And then we got a list of the shows he was on. Boom, 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 boom. Scooby-Doo. Wow, man. Well, they don't have Scooby listed in there. But yeah. Shaggy, Shaggy, Shaggy. television roles he was in, that would be 69. When he was, Scooby-Doo, where are you? Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? And of course, he also played Alexander Cabot III in Josie and the Pussycats. Hey, can you tell I've watched a lot of TV over my time? Sunny days. It's not sunny right now. It's wind blowing in. Keeps acting like it wants to rain pretty good. I remember Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. It wasn't even playing when I was alive on television, but I think it was Cartoon Network brought it back and played it for a while. Yeah. Dean Martin Celebrity Roast. On the roast of Don Rickles, he played Adolf Hitler. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Lord, I don't let dog wonder. Lap Olympics. I've seen them played on television so many times. The really rottens are like all the Hanna-Barbera cartoon villains. I can't remember the other two teams. But yeah. The TV show Soap. Wonderbug. Charlie's Angels, the original, was in an episode. So yeah, like I said, you probably heard him, whether you know it or not. Sister, Sister. What's New, Scooby-Doo, yep. I guess that's the TV live action Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I would guess, since it was in 2002. Blue's Clues. Yeah. Drews is what they said. Ethno-religious group constituting about 5.2% of the population of Lebanon. They follow the Druze faith, which is an esoteric, monotheistic Abrahamic religion originating from the Levant, and identify as Unitarians. So yeah, not necessarily Islamic, but still believing in that Islam, Christian, Judaism triumvirate, the Abrahamic religions. But yeah, that is the end of that. We've talked quite a bit about Casey Kasem, who he is. A lot longer than I thought we would, but yeah. Like I said, you've probably heard them. You're probably familiar with them, whether you know it or not. But let's go ahead and end this here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting these sources and links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.